Welcome, folks, to Margin Time, the podcast recommended by 4 out of 5 doctors and fat loggers. Today, we have a special episode today featuring members of the Dr. Mario community, and we are joined by Leviticus.
Hey, what's up?
And Savage Octagon.
Hey.
And, of course, with us, as usual, we have our production staff. Juicy from Tampa. Okay. But all right, let's just sort of get started, all right? This is sort of going to be different as we've sort of talked with like game developers. This time we're sort of talking with folks about a game community, right? So again, a lot of these questions will be for both of you. Maybe one of you will probably know more about the other on one particular thing. But first question for both of you, answer it however you feel is appropriate. How did both of you sort of get into Dr. Mario? Not just in the community, but like how did you like first learn about the game or play it or whatever, right?
Do you want to take this one first, Savage?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, I am of a certain age, and I played it when I was a kid. And there's a similar story with a lot of people that my mom played a lot of Dr. Mario and was really good at it. So I watched her, I played her, and then, like an idiot, I sold my Nintendo for something less good, and I forgot about regular NES for a long time. And then a friend of mine wrote an article for Ars Technica about emulators, and I got OpenEMU for my Mac and started playing Dr. Mario and kept playing Dr. Mario and played so much Dr. Mario that I had to delete the emulator off of my computer. And then that happened several times. And I didn't know that there was a scene to play it. So I was just playing by myself, and then I learned about speedrunning, so I just started timing myself. And then pandemic happened, and I was looking around for things to do and went down the rabbit hole of classic Tetris videos, actually. Not that I was going to play that, but, I saw that they had a side tournament. So I was going down the rabbit hole trying to find people, and then found a Discord and started speedrunning with them.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm like, okay, just before Leviticus comes in with his story, how did you play so much Dr. Mario that you had to delete it off your emulator or delete the emulator off your computer? What was the technical issue there?
I mean, I was just playing so much that, when I was having a conversation with someone, say at work, I would see the pills falling while I was talking to them and imagining best move sets and whatnot. So I said, I think I need to take a little break from this, reduce my play.
That. Okay, yeah, that's
yeah. So I was a little, that's normal. But now I've just embraced it.
All right. So, Vegas, how did you get into Dr. Mario?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people have this very common Dr. Mario mom story like Savage has, where they played it since they were a kid and they played it against their mom, and it's always the mom. I don't know why. It's scary how often that story comes up, like between people who don't even know each other. It's like a weird Mandela effect thing. I don't know. But
I have the mom story, but for Miss Pac-Man instead of Dr. Mario.
Oh, my mom loved Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah.
See, it's a thing. I don't know what it is, but anyway, yeah. I don't have that same story, so I feel like very almost left out. It's kind of weird, but I did not play Dr. Mario as a kid. I actually didn't start playing it at all until COVID happened during the pandemic, where I was unemployed and I was inside and there was nothing else to do. And I just wanted to play a new competitive game. And I started looking around and I thought, puzzle game would be fun. I've never really dived into a puzzle game before. And this is around the time that classic Tetris was very popular. This was when like Joseph had just beaten Jonas, and it was a huge deal. It was a big renaissance for their scene and very popular on YouTube. So I recommended their videos a lot. I gave it a try. I gave classic Tetris a shot. It was just. This is even before all the rolling stuff came along, and even that was too much for me. I found it too intimidating. But on the classic Tetris YouTube channel, as I was just trying to find videos, I saw the Dr. Mario matches from their side events. I just gave them a watch, and I thought it looked pretty interesting. So I thought I would give it a try. And I ended up finding the monthly speedrun tournament, and the whole speedrunning aspect was very appealing to me. It seemed cool that like at a casual level you can play Dr. Mario, and it's just, you know, get as long as you get all the viruses cleared, you win, and that's it. But this competitive aspect of doing it as quickly as possible, it completely changes the way you have to think about the game, and I found that very interesting. So I just got into that, and I met all these wonderful people in this community, and I've been a part of it ever since. It's been amazing.
Okay, that's also very good. The way you described classic Tetris, though, did sort of make me think of classic Tetris as sort of maybe the puzzle game equivalent of Third Strike. Because like, you know, like a lot of people who got into fighting games of a certain age got into it because of Third Strike, and even still today, like, you know, Evo Moment 37, you know, the Daigo parry, that really does attract a lot of people into like the scene and maybe the game. But then some people will actually try Third Strike and be like, no, this game is not for me.
It's a lot, yeah. I would say, without getting too into it, I'd say both of those games, Classic Tetris and Thursday, probably have the same sort of arc of like what, you know, how people got into it, how it got popular, and all that. It's actually never really thought of that before, but yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it's like it's fun to watch. It's very, you know, interesting like to watch as a spectator, but like they can also maybe be technically demanding to where like you probably wouldn't want to actually jump in the pool yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think both games have had sort of like Evo moments per se that have really helped their popularity catch on.
Yeah. All right. So this is kind of, I guess, maybe a little bit before getting into the Dr. Mario stuff. But were either of you in any other kind of like, you know, competitive communities, like maybe Yu-Gi-Oh or chess, LARPing, competitive knitting, or you know, I guess a book club or something like that? Any of that before like getting into the Dr. Mario rabbit hole?
You mean, did we have any hobbies?
I mean,
or just competitive things?
It could be hobbies or competitive things. It I don't know why, but it seemed interesting just to ask if there was any other sort of like, I guess not just hobbies, but maybe a hobby community, right? So like if you were also into like, you know, doing doing sewing or knitting as a group, or if you were in like, I don't know, group Lego events, or you know, something of that nature.
I don't think I ever took my hobbies to a group level before, and actually certainly I was never involved in a gaming community. That was, I think if you went back and told me from 5 years ago that I would be doing this, I would have been shocked, completely shocked, because I mean I like video games, but I never thought I would take it to this level. And part of it was that when I watched the CTWC videos, just like Lev did, I saw women competing, and it was not a negligible amount of women. It was, you know, it was a good portion of players were women, so I thought it would be very welcoming, and it has been. Since then, I have been involved a little bit with Games Done Quick, and so I've joined the Frame Fatales community, which is for all female identifying speedrunners, and it's just been a really great experience as well to do events for them and get to know other women.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So
I
I've kind of like the polar opposite of that, I would say. I've been involved in a lot of gaming communities over the years. I've played and I still actively play Magic, the TCG. Played that competitively for probably like 10 plus years now. I've played in like the 2010s. I was very invested in my local community for Project M. If you're familiar with the Smash Bros mod.
Yep.
Yeah, shout out to Ontario Project M. You guys are sick. I also played Link to the Past randomizer competitively for several years before finding Dr. Mario. As I've kind of moved on from that. And I've always been sort of, going back to this conversation about Third Strike, I've always been very FGC adjacent. Like, I don't really play a lot of fighting games, but I don't miss Evo for anything. I watch that every year religiously. Like, I love enjoying fighting games as a spectator, even if I've never really dove in and invested my time and effort in like a fighting game. I still think they're awesome, and I love them a lot. But so I've come from a lot of different schools of competitive gaming and stuff like that.
All right, and I guess now let's say Dr. Mario specifically, right? You've sort of had interest, you know, you've played it either with your mothers or from, you know, emulators. How did you guys get to like sort of, I guess, be a part of Dr. Mario community, and how did you sort of get to have what roles you do currently have within the community? Let's talk about that. I
You
guess
wanna take
Savage
take
or yeah, you
Yeah.
can sort of do it going personal.
Yeah. Do you want to just? You can take these first if you want, and if we want to just
Okay,
follow
yeah,
the
and
pattern.
they can edit this however they want. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I had seen all these videos. I found a Discord for it. I had never used Discord before. And I sort of crept onto the server and I was like, hello, I don't know anything about Twitch streaming. I don't know anything about this. And it turned out that they were having qualifiers for a tournament that was in 2 weeks. So I got set up for it. And I actually participated in a weekly event that Len had set up. It was a weekly speed checkup. And yeah, I was very nervous to talk to everyone. But it was such a welcoming community. Oh my gosh. I was really pleased with how people answered my questions. People helped me out with my game. It was just really great. And all of this happened from just a large rabbit hole of YouTube and Google search. So I joined in 2020 and I got my start in commentating. I figured, yeah, I'm a teacher. I like to talk about stuff that's I know about and is interesting. So I started doing commentary and then I started volunteering to organize tournaments. The main person sort of left me in charge, and then I officially became the person. So now I actually run all online events that stream through the channel, and it's been a great learning experience and really fun. So just hanging out, saying, how can I help? And sort of then getting a big role.
Okay.
Yeah. I sorry, could you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, just like how did you get into like I guess the Dr. Mario community and how you got to whatever role you currently like occupy within the community.
Okay, right, yeah. So I started out just like any other gaming community I'd ever been a part of. You just come in and sign up for their tournament and meet people and see how it feels, see if you enjoy it. And I really liked the vibes of the community right away, and that got me invested pretty quick. But I found that coming from past communities and other games, I just saw a lot of opportunities that I didn't feel like anyone else was really jumping on, and it didn't seem like anything like that I thought was possible was going to happen unless I sort of stepped up and did it myself, which was really new for me because in the past I've always been a player first. I love playing, I love competing. That's why I've been in so many different games, because more than any individual game, I just like competing. It's so fun to me. But in this case, I stepped up and I created a weekly event that I kind of intended to be maybe a little more structured and competitive, but quickly turned into a really awesome weekly community event where everyone just hangs out in Discord and laughs with each other all night.
Laugh our asses off.
Yeah, I have fond memories from doing those. So we would just hang out. We would all play the same like seeded run of 0 to 10 in Dr. Mario, and we would all play the same boards and piece sets, and we'd sort of revel in bad RNG together instead of cursing it separately. And I think that helped a lot with making it feel more togetherness with everybody. Then from there, I just kept going with that, and I run my monthly versus tournament now, hosted on Fightcade, and that's really been doing great, and people really enjoyed that. I think it's helped grow versus a lot now that there's an online system that's more based on like the traditional like FGC style of tournament that you're probably very familiar with, but was very foreign to Dr. Mario. So I thought we've got like this is a layup. We can just do this. Like I know exactly how this is going to work, and we're going to do it. It's going to work. So I just sort of always tried to do things that I think would be good, that the community should have, in the way that I know how, and just tried to do that and make the community better in that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
we. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm like coughing.
Yeah,
You go
that's
ahead.
okay. We both joined very, very early on in online Dr. Mario. So, for example, the speed tournaments began, I think, in May 2020, and I joined in October. Lev, you were a couple months before that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so there were just lots of opportunities to get involved and help shape what this thing would become, and also help set the culture, which was already nice before we got there, but just to uphold that as a kind place. And I think we're unique in that, wow, we have very, knock on wood, but we have very few problems with people coming in and being, garbage, online
I was going
garbage.
to say disruptive, but
Yeah.
No, you set the vibe, so it's sort of
Yeah,
really keeps
yeah,
people out who would not match up with that. Even if they wanted to like be troublemakers, it's kind of hard to just do
yeah,
that if there's not enough of a foothold to like make that happen.
yeah. And there is really none. I mean, we're pretty pretty good at batting down any vibes that just don't match out.
Okay, so I kind of do want to follow up a little bit on like what you said, Savage, is sort of coming in as sort of maybe a new player who was not, not very into competitive games, not very much into maybe group hobbies, right? Coming into sort of Dr. Mario as somebody sort of new and fresh faced, right? How was it sort of when you were, I guess, coming in as somebody new and maybe trying to get better? Did you ever feel like maybe intimidated at, oh, all these people that have been here for so much longer, they're so much better than me, they're so much stronger than me, I probably wouldn't be able to even touch them or something? Did you have any of those sort of anxieties, and how did you sort of, I guess, deal with them or grow out of them with the Dr. Mario community?
Oh yeah, great question. I definitely was intimidated rather at getting into the whole online gaming process. I was, nervous. Would anyone want to talk to me? Would anyone answer my questions? And I'm a teacher, so I figured I got to ask these questions. Otherwise, I'm not going to get the answers. And people were just so welcoming. And so it didn't really matter to me how competitive I was at that moment. That, okay, there are people here who I can ask questions and they can help me get better. And I got up the courage to approach one of the sort of OG untouchable players, Dimwit. And I said, hey, if I show you some footage of my recent PB, could you go through it with me and give me some advice? And he did. And we had a stream together. And it exploded my play. It made me so much better. And there's lots of people in the community who are totally happy to do that for new players. And so that's a really great thing. I think I consider myself lucky that I've really grown in skill with all the players. I think right before I joined, I also, learned about speedrun.com. And I went online to sort of check what my times were for, say, 0 to 10 or 0 to 20 around other people. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to be last all the time. But, I'm not going to win anything. And it took me a really long time to win my first crown in the, let alone match.
Wow.
And it took me like 5 months to win a crown and win a match. And, I just kept playing because it was fun. And a lot of people were there because it was fun. So that really helped me get into it. And everybody was just so welcoming and also have a similar demographic as well. There's a lot of people my age, common experiences, and that's just been really fun.
Okay, so I guess, and this may be sort of to sort of tack on to something that we had sort of talked about a little bit before we started recording. When did sort of Dr. Mario sort of get a dual focus and like competitive and speedrun? Because I imagine like sort of being a bit of or at least not quite growing out of Tetris, which maybe you could say considering like, the development of code base and all that, but just sort of, I guess, as a community, sort of growing out of like, CTWC was probably mostly speedrun focused. What exactly did cause it to sort of be able to sort of juggle both of those plates at the same time as much as it does?
Great question. So there are deep connections to classic Tetris, CTWC. Chris Bidwell was originally the organizer of a Dr. Mario side tournament at CTWC, and Jonas Neubauer, who's a huge champion, of course, of CTWC. His wife, Heather, was one of the biggest players in the Dr. Mario scene. So they started having live tournaments. I think it was a Pittsburgh Expo, which no longer exists, but they were playing those tournaments, and then in person had to go online, I guess, onto the Switch. And then somebody started the speedrunning scene independently of that. And I think they were guys who were involved in Tetris as well a little bit. So there was the speedrunning scene that was separate, and Versus had kind of gone underground because it was COVID, and Switch is not actually very reliable for online play. It's actually not great at all. And so, there were these two scenes side by side, and Versus wasn't really flourishing. But in 2021, we merged. And so you could see all of the in-person things and all of the online things. And actually, it's only just now that online versus is getting a good foothold. But everybody is so excited and practicing up for those live events because now we have a robust set of them. So yeah, so we kind of joined forces in 2021 and now are united.
Okay, that's really good to know. I guess let me think. I guess let's just go into this next question. What's sort of, I guess, your favorite Dr. Mario moment? That could be like a speed run, a particular competition play, funny commentary, somebody wore like a funny cosplay or something at a live event. Whatever. Take your pick.
Lev, you want to take this one first?
I kind of have to think about it a little bit.
I know.
It's, I'm sure it's something that happened at one of the live events, one of the annual championships. But there's just so many. As corny as that sounds, there's a lot of great moments that we have that I'm trying to think of like a real favorite. I definitely have some personal favorites, but I'm trying to think more general in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, personally, sort of meeting some of these people that I had never met before was just a magical experience, unrelated to Dr. Mario, really. But I guess I would have to say the number one moment, I think, was just probably the first time I ever won a match in speedrunning.
There we go.
Yeah, it was a really powerful moment for me. And
10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so excited. I'd practiced so long and I thought, okay, I think I might be able to take this player down. And I did, and I was just over the moon. Yeah, it was magical.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. All right, so I guess here is one that a question I've been meaning to ask forever, because I don't know. I hear this all the time. Everyone's saying it, and I just have to wonder, what the heck? Where did Fat Law come from?
Who didn't? It's not me.
Oh, you don't know? I'll take this one.
Yeah.
So back in the early days of the weekly checkup event, I think that was kind of the genesis of a lot of the names that we came up with for various clears in the game, like Lightning Bolt and all that. The most prolific one is definitely Fat Log. I don't know. I can't even tell you. If I had to explain how this is the one, I don't know. It's just so marketable, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. But that one was it was invented by our good friend, the Exact Same, who is not really an active player. He's definitely like my favorite member of the community who I've never seen play Dr. Mario in my life. But yeah, he's a coder. He's done some ROM hacks. He is always an active part of our community without ever actually entering any tournaments or anything like that. But we love him, and he definitely deserves credit. He started that in like one of our Twitch chats during a weekly checkup.
Yeah.
And then it just caught on like wildfire, and now it's I don't think anybody, even you guys, have heard of it. So it's definitely that's sort of like the big one that everybody knows about.
And I guess just for people who maybe are not as Dr. Mario brained as everyone on this call is, what is a fat log? To define it in Dr. Mario terms, right? Like, what kind of clear is someone referring to when they say that?
A fat log is a double horizontal. So two horizontals stacked right on top of each other. When you're able to do that, that is a fat log. You can also have a offset fat log where they're not directly on top of each other, but it's two horizontals that overlap in some way. So yeah, it's a double horizontal. Yeah, not really. Yeah, but we love our funky names in the Dr. Mario community. I mean, we try to come up with a name for everything.
All right, and Leviticus, did you have some time now to think about maybe like a favorite moment?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I mean, in terms of like my favorite personal moments, I recently traveled to Austin in January, and I was able to win a live event, and that was super exciting. I had an incredible match against Packy, and I'm not going to ever forget that. I think that was probably one of the most clippable endings to a game or a set even that you can imagine. And I was super happy to have made that trip, just to be a part of that. That was super awesome.
So wonderful. Beautiful
Yeah.
growth.
But beyond that, I think the other thing that I remember is from last November when I was in Columbus for the live championships, the DRMC championships in Columbus. So this is a very like
Ohio.
Ohio, yeah, that's
Okay.
right. We have that. It's been there every year for at least the last 3 years, maybe even more, ever since live events were possible again after COVID. But in the most recent one was probably I've been to 2 of them now, and last year was probably the best one. It's very much like an annual community meetup. And on the Friday night before the event on Saturday, we always have like a meetup at a barcade. And when I went there, it was my second year. So the first year I'd met everybody for the first time, but in the second year, just recently, there was a lot of new people that hadn't shown up ever. It was their first DRMC, and I met a Canadian player called Panban Richard for the first time, who I didn't even realize was going to be there. I didn't know he was going to be in attendance at all until we got there. And someone told me like Panban Richard's here, and I was like, what? And I didn't know what he looked like. I'd never seen him before, but I met him. And he was like, "Oh, you're Leviticus," and I was like, "Hey, yeah, you're Panban. Nice to meet you." And the first thing he said to me was, "Thank you so much for doing the monthly checkup tournaments. I love them so much." And I was not ready to hear that at all. And
great. Oh man,
he's the nicest guy. Meeting him at like a fellow Canadian and having all the Canadian players that I met there was so special to have that like national representation and to get that kind of thanks for running these events that I'd been running for probably about a year at this point. And not getting like super, maybe the results and the success with it that I would have liked. I thought maybe people weren't appreciating it, and then to hear that was just it hit me really hard.
Panban's really nice. Like Panban's pretty active around here too, and like a good thing I kind of like about Panban is that he's very open to try other games that maybe he's not super great in. Right, he's just like really eager to just learn more about other types of puzzle games and things of that nature.
Yeah, he was also a real strong Puyo player at one point.
Yeah, I did know that actually. He played it on stream once. I was really surprised by that. He says it's very similar to Dr. Mario in his opinion. I don't know about that, but he definitely he could convince me. I think he's pretty good at both. So,
well, that meetup too. I thought you were going to say the Mind Meld tournament. Because
that was great too, yeah.
I want to do this every day of my life, but we had a Mind Meld tournament at that bar, so we had a random draw, and you would have a partner, and your partner would do the direction, the D-pad, and you would do A and B, or vice versa, and we had to race another pair in versus, and this woman and I figured out that if we did not talk, we were perfectly in sync. And it was just magical. But if we talked to each other at all, nope, couldn't play. It was pretty fun.
That's amazing. That's fun. That's nice to have like little weird, fun stuff like that. That isn't just purely like, who's the best specific, tit for tat, very specific, high APM, fat logs per minute type player, right? Like it's very good to sort of have like something that's like little fun and silly. Type deal like that. All right.
The key to that too is that it was random partners, so a lot of people were paired up with someone they'd never met, so it was very much like a mixer thing. It really set the tone for the weekend. It broke the ice for everybody. Panban Richard got up and started commentating in this bar at the top of his lungs.
Amazing.
I can't even describe. It was an awesome idea. I will remember that. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so I guess let's sort of talk about another sort of superlative in Dr. Mario, best player, and this could be maybe their best speedrunner, best versus, had best results, maybe they're the funnest person to talk to at an event, they're like they're very comforting, or some other criteria you would use to say, oh, this is probably the best or favorite Dr. Mario player, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so you're not speaking in terms of like best, in terms of number one player in the world.
If you want to use that criteria, you're more than welcome to. But also, like maybe, like let's say for me, an example, right? Probably one of my favorite players that I meet at meetups is a guy named Big Zam, right? And like Big Zam is specifically
Love
good.
that name. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's the Gundam reference, right? He's very good at fighting games. He's kind of like one of those people who are good at like a lot of weird poverty games that maybe only 10 people have heard of. But like, I really like Big Zam just because he's like so fun to play with, right? Like, he's so jovial and energetic, and like, even like, if you lose, though, he's doing some weird stun like bullshit, right? He's just really a real fun guy to be in the presence of,
Got it.
So yeah, let's say that, right? Like if you have somebody who's sort of like
Okay.
that for you in the Dr. Mario community, feel free to shout him out here.
I think before we either of us say it, I think we're probably both gonna have the same answer. If we're talking about across all possible metrics of quote unquote best player, right? Would you agree before we say it?
Oh.
Do
Oh
you
my
think we
gosh,
have the same
I
person?
feel-
Come on, really? I feel like it's
Oh.
obvious.
Oh, I don't know because if we did 1, 2, 3 and said a different person, I would feel.
Oh
like
no,
we're
we don't
no
have
longer-
to. We don't have to
Oh,
throw
okay,
ourselves under
okay.
the bus like that. I'm just saying.
Oh,
I think that this person is probably like the sort of the shoe-in for this. If we're talking about raw skill, I would say like there's a Turkish player named Adelito who's very
Mhm.
good
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
speed running specifically. He's I think the world record holder now. If not, I think it was recently taken
Oh,
from
it
him.
was
But
taken
he
back,
has
yeah.
but he's won so many speed tournaments at
Sick.
this point. He's undisputed. In versus, I would say that Snipe, who like a Canadian player, he's definitely the best in versus. He's won. Again, he's sort of like the Adelito of monthly checkup. He's just won everything in the since November. He didn't win the world championships in November, but he has gone on a tear ever since. Mostly because he started using Fightcade and started playing in tournaments, and has a drive to improve. It's unreal.
Yeah, no,
So
it's unreal. But
yeah, can I say it? I really want to.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
If I'm talking about the best overall in every category, best in skill, best in personality, best in like role model for the community, it would 100% be Swang. He is the current reigning world champion, and he is just like the coolest human being I've ever met in my entire life.
So cool. I mean, yeah. So he's amazing. He was really dominant in speed. Of course, versus, winning twice against such an amazing field that only keeps getting better. He's fantastic. I think, too, somebody who is definitely one to watch in the future, but represents the best that our community has to offer is Betty B Plays G's. Like, she is so excited to play this game at a high level. She started off good. She's getting amazing. And I played her 2 years ago and she beat me, but I was so excited. I don't know. I was just excited for her to win as I was if I had won. And she is that way for all the competitors. And she just won a regional in Louisville and it was just amazing. She was so dominant. And I think too, she's so welcoming. She is definitely one of the best. She and Swang are some of the best our community has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's wonderful. That's so nice to hear y'all talk about like star players who aren't just really good at like, the game, but also I guess sort of good in sort of the social aspects, right? I guess, and this is a problem that maybe a lot of FGC spaces will have where it's like if somebody is good, then they'll just take that as sort of a way to sort of do like, I guess a might makes right sort of deal, right? Like, all their opinions are always correct. They can never do any wrong. They poop rainbows and gold or whatever, right? It's like it's a very much and that can sort of also foment a sort of pretty negative thing, right? Because then people are, I guess, maybe either trying to be good, so maybe they can have that sort of top player privilege. That's kind of what most people refer to it as.
Yeah, I can definitely identify with like the archetype you're describing right now from other communities I've been a part of, where that's pretty common. But I think that like having someone like Swang be at the top of the heap, is really fortunate for us because he's such an awesome role model for the community and to represent us. I don't know if he would appreciate this comparison, but I really think he's like the Jonas of Dr. Mario, the Jonas Neubauer, because he's that kind of person. He's just a jovial, nice person who, I mean, I can't imagine him having a bad word to say about anybody. It's it's like if you met him, you would agree. Like that's the kind of person he is. He's I don't even know how to describe it, man. I've never met anybody like him in my entire life. It's really wild, and I'm so glad that he's such a public facing part of our community, because we're so lucky for that.
Definitely.
That's wonderful. Okay, so anything else I guess you want to say about players before we move on to like sort of the next question?
Oh, is there anyone? I don't want to say who deserves a shout out, as if to imply that everyone doesn't. But is there anyone you promised you'd mention or something?
No, there's no one I promised to mention. But I guess I just want to say that, you know, the community is really blowing up, people practicing really hard. But you definitely have to acknowledge that we are standing on the shoulders of some giants. And when this community first started, there were a couple players that were really dominant and set the tone that, okay, you can find people, and it is your goal to beat them or get acknowledged by them, or, you know, make the same kind of moves that they make. And that was definitely Dimwit and Packy. So, you know, our scene owes a lot to them in terms of setting a really high standard for people to emulate and try to beat. So gotta give them a shout out too.
All right. So let's I guess sort of talk about maybe another sort of side thing. Well, this is sort of community related, but like I guess I'm curious about, you know, and this is sort of a thing that may come with a lot of sort of retro game communities. How, and maybe gauge it to the best of your ability, how would the community feel about if like maybe there were a Dr. Mario sequel? You know, like I know there's been like maybe a couple, but like let's say, you know, Nintendo, they finished doing Smash Brothers, right? And maybe they need another like game to do as like you know, the next big competitive thing, right? Is there any hope for like say, would it would be so great if Nintendo made like Dr. Mario, I don't know, Switch 2 or whatever, right? Whatever the numbering is. I don't keep up. I don't keep up with it very well, but like...
Okay. Every time there's a Nintendo Direct, I think Lev says, still no Dr. Mario. I think he says that.
Oh yeah, no.
I've definitely heard
every time I get my popcorn and I'm like, Dr. Mario 99 is coming. I know it. They're making it.
Yes.
It's. I don't know how they'd even do that, like logistically, but even if it wasn't that, even if it was just a mainline Dr. Luigi-esque entry, maybe not quite that bad, but you know what I mean.
Dr. Wario.
Sure,
Dr.
whatever.
Mario, yes.
Just some sort of mainline Dr. Mario game on the Switch, or the next console that comes out. I think that would just be so huge. I personally have huge hope for that. I think a Dr. Mario sequel or a Dr. Mario 99 would just give us so much exposure to like the greater gaming world. We would be able to really run with that, and it would grow our community so much just to have that sort of moment to really show our community off to a wider audience.
Oh yeah, we want it so badly. We want another version of it. I mean, I love Dr. Mario 64. I wish that could be, you know, sort of revived and made available to play, you know, versus on the Switch. But yeah, we want it so bad. Dr. Mario 99 would be amazing.
Yeah, also it would just be a lot of fun, to be clear. Like I want it a lot for what it would do for our community, but also it would just be really fun. I don't think anyone would ever stop playing the NES version competitively, to be clear. I think that's just what it's going to be forever, more or less. It's very like super turbo-esque to put it in FGC terms, but I there's no doubt in my mind that if a sequel came out, literally everyone in our community would be playing it. At least when it came out, and we would be, you know, we would probably run an event for it, and we would try to promote it and try to promote our scene, because I'm sure a lot of people outside of our community would also be playing it on Twitch and stuff like that. I think that would be huge for us. But yeah, also I would love to just play a new game. That would, you know, who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
May
So
I?
I guess
That kind of leads me to a somewhat related thought. Is there any particular reason that NES is kind of accepted as a standard? Because I know there's at least a number of versions out there, and is that... Well, I know there's probably some strong feelings, but like, is it down to association with classic Tetris, or Is there just some particular
or-
sauce in the NES?
We're really gonna stir the pot on this one. I feel like.
I mean,
Teeniest bit. I can cut this out if need be, but I am curious.
Okay.
Well, sorry, you go ahead. I'll let you answer. this one, I
well,
think.
I don't know. You probably have a better answer for this. I mean, it is widely known that the RNG of NES Dr. Mario is cursed. It's actually terrible, and I think that's what makes it kind of fun for speedrunning, is that everybody, there's a lot of communities that actually hate on the game that they speedrun. They're like, oh, this game is amazing, and it sucks. So, I'm surprised that SNES hasn't caught on more because it's much faster. And then, N64 is much friendlier. I don't know, it's sort of, I don't know, it's easier to get into. But yeah, I don't know. It's a really good question.
Is it like a technical issue? Because I know that the reason that we, as Puzzle Wednesday, would not probably do N64 SNES is because like emulating it
yeah.
emulating it and that play are kind of like they're kind of a quagmire.
Yeah,
RNG,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, kind of a nightmare. So that's part of it.
Mhm. I do think
But,
that's a big part of it. Yeah. Like
Mhm.
from a technical side of things, especially because Dr. Mario and Classic Tetris are so intertwined. Like Savage was saying, a lot of live events are run sort of on the Sunday of the CTWC regional Saturday, and so there's just a bunch of NESs and CRTs around. So that's the version that most people played because it was the most convenient at that time. And on paper, I'd say NES is not a great version. And I mean, there are people who are gonna not be happy that I said that, but I'm not a coward. Come at me. But like every version of the game has its own quirks and issues. But NES, I think, would, like, if I had to do a tier list of every version of Dr. Mario, I personally would put NES pretty low on that list just because of the issues that it has. But it also has things that are good about it that I do like. Maybe it's just because I played it so long, but there's quirks to the movement mechanics and the rotation mechanics that are good. But it just has some issues, particularly the RNG that are just not great, and that have been fixed in other versions of the game.
Mhm.
So, I don't think the NES is unplayable by any means, but I mean, we can do better, guys. Come on.
I mean, well, that is something that's sort of what happened, right? Like for instance, I'm in the VSAF community, right? They're pretty much only going to play the arcade version of VSAF, vanilla, right? And VSAF 2 does make changes, but and here's something that'll happen: they will say VSAF 2 is bad, but VSAF 2 is bad in ways that casual players would never really notice, right? If you play VSAF 1 and VSAF 2 next to each other, you probably would not notice the difference. But players who have been like drilling the game for like years and years and years and years, they can tell you every single thing that's wrong with it, with the VSAF 2 compared to VSAF 1, right? And that's probably just something that maybe a lot of communities get into. They really just drill this one game, they speed run it, they versus they do whatever with it for like years and years and years. They find every nook and cranny with it that maybe most other people would not see the issue with. So like I guess some people just get into like the grit or the grind or whatever, just like staying on that version. It can be hard to sort of make that shift, right? I think probably also TGM, Money Puzzle, Mag Drop. You can take any sort of competitive community where like maybe there's a sequel or there's multiple versions of a game, but they are pretty much just, for whatever reason, whether it be technical, cultural, or whatever, they're stuck on that one. And
it's very much like that. I don't think it's quite as in the weeds as you're suggesting for Dr. Mario, at least. Like, I think anyone can see somebody not get a blue piece for 40 plus pills and go, that's kind of weird. That's not a super technical, minute thing that no one would notice. Like, it's pretty obvious to most people, but I mean, it's, again, there's pros and cons to everything. I don't think NES is by any means the perfect version, but it's just the one that people love, and it's the one people are nostalgic for, and it's just the one that has caught on. So that's what we're playing, and I don't think it's like an insurmountable, like, horrible curse to be playing this version of the game or anything. But yeah, I think it's got its issues for sure.
Okay, and we kind of get into a bit of the end, a little bit of last questions, but like here's sort of something that's semi-related to I guess sort of the sequel thing I asked. if you were to, I guess, maybe add, is there a mechanic from another game, maybe puzzle or otherwise, that you would like to maybe add or see in Dr. Mario, right? And I guess let's just talk about Dr. Mario as, I guess, a general format. As you know, there's different versions, NES, Dr. Luigi, whatever, right? But like, I guess if there was something you could add to Dr. Mario or anything, what would it be?
Do you mean like something that's never been in any version before?
Yeah, maybe something that hasn't been in a version before. Something that maybe you just think it would be cool. Like, say maybe if you, yeah, sort of like I guess I don't know. I guess sort of like how the turbo hack is, and we kind of do need to talk about the turbo hack because
Well, that's kind of what I was leaning towards. Yeah, I
I
mean,
haven't brought that up yet, but like sort of how turbo hack has it has hard drop, right? Like if maybe somebody thought, oh, it'd be really cool if Dr. Mario had like maybe Puyo garbage, or somebody thought, oh, it'd be really cool if Dr. Mario had like a piece that cleared all of the color,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've thought a lot about this topic because for anyone who's not aware, like there's the Dr. Mario Turbo hack is a ROM hack that I'm not a coder by any means. Shoutouts to the exact same of Fatlog Infamy. He's the coder of that hack and he deserves all the credit. But I came up with this idea for this hack because it was kind of my thought of how could you change the game to improve it? It was sort of like, how can I improve or enhance or just change, modify, rebalance verses in Dr. Mario. And so I thought of all these things you could do, and I thought a lot about like how the garbage works. And I don't know if something like Puyo garbage would really be great, like blocks you couldn't clear. That sounds kind of, that's, I don't know how that would work. I don't think that would.
Oh no, it's very cursed, but it's just it's an example.
Just an example, yeah, for sure. But I thought a lot about that, and like the turbo hack ended up just becoming the best things that I liked about every other version of Dr. Mario kind of piled into one thing in a way that sort of works and to create something new. But I've never really thought too much about or come up with anything where I was like, wow, this is a thing, like maybe a hold chamber like from modern Tetris, that could be cool. But I mean, just give me hard drop. I'm good with that. I don't need anything more. The hard drop is so much fun.
I think I would like a co-op mode. I think a board that you and a partner could solve. There is a homebrew game called Dr. Covio that came out in I think it was 2020, and it was sort of Christmas themed. I guess they have a Christmas game, and the cartridge lit up and stuff. And there was a 4-player co-op mode, giant board that 4 people were trying to clear at the same time. But I think it'd be really fun to have some sort of a co-op mode. I also think, shout out to N64 again. If they could make the Flash mode better, I would be so stoked about that. Flash is, there are a couple of viruses that are glowing at the beginning, and the first person in versus to clear the flashing viruses wins. I think an expansion of that would be awesome.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting thing there. But wouldn't that have like? I guess that just seems like that would have like RNG implications. Like, how is the flash virus decided? I'm sure it's like probably far down, but
yeah, no, not necessarily. There's always a red one, a yellow one, and a blue one. So they're diversified by color. But they could be at the bottom of the screen. They could be at the top, and you're still trying to be mindful of dropping garbage on your opponent. But for me, it's hilarious because I'll be playing Flash and I'm like, oh no, I'm just trying to clear the whole screen like I am in Speed Play. What a disaster. But I really love that mode.
Okay, and I guess how difficult was it to do the turbo hack? Was it like a really, hard undertaking? I know you probably didn't do the coding part of it, but
yeah.
Was it maybe still? Because sometimes even if you're just like maybe just like doing like coding cheerleading or something, maybe that can just be you can probably get an idea of how hard the problems are to like sort of surmount.
Yeah, I mean, if there was anything difficult about it, that would be, you have the wrong person on this podcast for that, because that would definitely be, all the difficulty I'm sure was on his end, on the exact same end, when he coded everything. Honestly, I had come into contact with him because he had been making some sort of like fun ROM hacks, sort of like, oh, garbage rises from the bottom as you're playing every couple pills, or oh, when you make a combo in one player, it'll drop garbage on yourself in one player mode, stuff like that. Like, and he was making these creative alternate mode ROM hacks. And when I came up with these ideas for Turbo, I basically just DM'd him, was like, hey, I like your ROM hacks. I have this idea for a ROM hack. I mean, I don't mean to, ask you to work for exposure or whatever, but like, would you be interested in doing this? And I sent him like a document with all the features that I thought would be cool and why I wanted them and how they all work together. And he was super nice. And he was like, that sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. I'll totally do it. So that was all my part of it. I just came up with the ideas and was like, hey, would this be difficult to code and to hack into the game? And he would be like, I can probably do it, but he's such a nice guy. He might have just been being nice, and maybe it was way more difficult than I thought. So the idea came to me pretty easily. The coding part of it, I'm sure, was way more difficult than anything I ever had to do. But yeah, I'm really proud of how it turned out for sure. But you'd have to ask him if it was a real trial or tribulation or anything like that.
You haven't gotten into the part of puzzle games where you end up getting roped into coding projects, because I tried to do that. I tried to tell somebody else to code a training mode for Puzzle Fighter, and then I ended up being the guy who had to code it.
Oh, jeez.
Which was fun. It was, I don't want to say fun. It was nice to do, but it's just kind of weird that, oh, well, I know someone who could do it. Let me just sort of be a liaison, get someone else to sort of work on it. And
I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, this was not like that at all. I was just like, here's what I
Hey,
think
do
would be
this.
great. Kind of, yeah. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
would you be able to do? Is this possible? And he would be like, yep, and he would do it. Or he'd be like, well, this would be the easy way to do it. And I'd be like, yeah, let's do that. It was very like working I say working with him, but honestly,
quote
he did all the
unquote
work.
working with him.
Yeah, but like the whole process with him was so easy. Like, and it helps that this isn't like a massive project. We didn't do any like graphical modifications or anything super crazy. We really just modified the behavior of the game in several different ways, and he just did it. And a lot of the things, we didn't take very long. Honestly, a lot of the stuff that he did pretty much worked on the first try, and it was great, and it all came together. So we've worked on it a little bit since in versions that haven't come out yet, but basically it's been super easy, like not at all like the process you described. Yeah, it was great.
I mean, yeah, no, because the process I described was also that the people who I first went to were not the training mode had to be done with like Lua script, right? Which is like sort of a different coding than they were used to. And so like I had someone who like basically knows the memory hex values, whatever, backwards and forwards. They would know what to change to make a training mode happen, but they didn't know it in that particular coding, right? So like the person I did know that knew that coding was like, yeah, I can do that, but they were like a fighting game person. They were somebody I knew from VSAV. So they did not have much experience with the puzzle game stuff. And also they kind of were trying to get more people into the Lua stuff. So they said, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do the Lua stuff instead. Because I need to like recruit more people into this like sort of cult, I guess.
Oh yeah, that was the give and take, I guess.
Yeah, that's the give and take. That's the deal with the devil I had to make to get that out.
Yeah, no, there was no give and take in this case. Like I gave him the ideas and he brought them to reality. I owe him several beers at this point. Like, he's amazing.
Okay, that's great. So I guess we're kind of almost about at the end. We've kind of more or less answered a lot of the important questions, I think. But I guess it's time for like one more fun one, right? If you could change Dr. Mara from being like maybe medically themed, like maybe if it was like more so about construction or doing a bakery or maybe a circus or something, right? What would you change it to if you wanted to like sort of change the theming of it?
I mean, I have a very real, not lighthearted answer to this question, actually, if you want it.
I am.
Yeah, I mean, go for
I'm
it.
I'm open to it.
Sure. So if I could change like the theme of Dr. Mario, I wouldn't necessarily move it away from the medical theme of Dr. of the game, but I would yeah, no, we're going there. But I would move it away from like the Mario theme of the game. And there's a lot of reasons for that that I could talk about for a very long time. Like I said before, I've come from the Project M scene. And if you ask anyone from Project M or from Smash Bros, they'll tell you how they feel about the developer of the game, who shall not be named. So I think that there are a lot of issues with working with that developer if you're trying to be a competitive community. And I think that if we had some version of, if in a perfect world we could move away from the official versions of the game to a rethemed version of the game that did not contain certain intellectual property and whatnot, it would make things a lot easier and give us a lot more room to grow as a community. But I mean, that's probably a pipe dream, but that's what I would change 100%, just on a practical level.
Pipe Dream, another puzzle game. Way to go. That's okay. So, but
I don't know. I think probably fruit. I think there's underutilized fruit in puzzle games. I like fruit. Yeah, that was a dumb answer, but I like
Right.
it.
I
I
should
like
let you go
fruit.
first. I'm sorry.
It's colorful, it's friendly, but you can't be like, Dr. Fruitio or like Fruit Seller Mario. It's not gonna work. It's
I
like
mean, there was that. I don't know if
Mario's
there's a
fruit.
You could make the
real.
viruses berries and it would be berry blast
Yeah,
or something. Yeah.
Mario's Berry Blaster or something. Or, they probably would have marketed it as like a girly, quote, girly game. So it would probably be like Peach's Berry Blast or something like that.
Be like Yoshi Fruit Buster or something.
Yeah, Yoshi Fruit Buster. I mean, there was Yoshi's Cookie, right? So we've
Yeah.
already kind of done that. So yeah, Yoshi Fruit Buster or something like that. I think, that could be really colorful. Every 5 levels you could go to the fruit market instead of, seeing aliens pass by. I actually have no idea what the cutscenes in Dr. Mario are. Like, I haven't seen them in years.
I don't think
So
any speedrunner has, to be fair.
no, has never seen that. So yeah, Yoshi's Berry Blast featuring Dr. Mario, every so often saying, an apple a day keeps Bowser away, or something like that. Oh, Bowser comes down and gets you with a virus if
Oh,
you don't eat enough fruit. The end. Yes. I'll be here all week.
Three very different answers. No, again, when you were saying it, I was actually thinking like, wow, no, there's actually like 5 or 10 different fruit puzzle games, but I get
But not on the, not on the NES.
not on the NES. Yeah. Let's say that I'm not going to count homebrew stuff, right?
Right,
but,
right.
But no, Leviticus, your answer is also kind of kind of a pretty big one that I kind of almost did not really think to get into because I figured just again, being a community that does work with certain intellectual properties under a certain company, which maybe has been named once on this podcast, but it's probably smart to not say it twice, right? Is probably a bit of a headache in a lot of ways, and probably not just because they don't support, the Dr. Mario meetup in, Lower Poughkeepsie or something, right? That they're probably also can be very antagonistic in some ways that just make you guys being a very just a hobbyist group, right? Because I imagine that there's not like a big Dr. Mario lobby, right? Like I don't know, there's not like
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that our community is at the point where it's really been an issue. But given what other games from said developer have experienced that are much larger than us in the past, then I think it's something to be mindful of for sure. And I'm sure we are. It's never been a problem for me personally in any of the events I've run because they're pretty small ball. They're like just online tournaments, less than 64 people, a lot less actually. So like, it's not anything that's ever going to be an issue, but it's something I think about for sure because,
it's something in
given my
region.
history.
Yeah, and what we'd really love is to be able to speed run, I think, the same piece sets. A lot of people ask about that. And, the only current way to do that is with a ROM hack. And, we don't want to get in trouble for that. So we've been very wary of putting that kind of content up on our official channels. But, again, it's very small ball. I do worry about that, but it is what it is. We'll go until we can't go anymore.
Oh, that's very brave, very very strong of the community. And again, another connection between Dr. Mario and TGM communities. Again, it's it's very fun thing that this has been sort of seeing how Dr. Mario community, while being so unique, does also share a lot in common with other various communities I've also sort of been involved with here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're kind of winding down about the end of it again. Thanks so much for joining us, for making the time, taking some time out of your day to sort of talk with us about this stuff, sort of show off the community, say very nice, wonderful, beautiful things about it. I guess any last word you have either for, the Dr. Mario community or for anyone that's maybe listening to this and may be curious in Dr. Mario but just hasn't quite taken the plunge yet.
Do you
Oh,
want to
come
start on that
join
one?
us. Come join us. We want you. Everybody's so nice. So, think about your mom. It would make her happy to join. Yeah, and just, ask questions. Lots of people are happy to help you get set up. Don't forget to learn how to rotate with both buttons. That would be my number one suggestion. Sounds silly, but it is. And yeah, take your vitamins. That's another one.
Yeah, I have to say that there's a reason I've stuck around with this community for as long as I have. It's very unique to any other gaming community I've ever been a part of. So, regardless of what opinions and predispositions you might have about gaming communities, I think Dr. Mario and our community will really like shatter your expectations in terms of what you think it's going to be like. We are so welcoming and friendly. I've never felt that more than when I went to my first live event in 2022 and I met everyone in person. Everyone that goes to these always for the first time, especially last year, always want to come back the next year because everyone's just so cool. And I think that lends to a lot of different reasons, but we have a amazing gender diversity compared to most gaming communities that I've been a part of, at least, and I think that's really unique. We are just so like welcoming, and everyone who's been to these live events always describes it as feeling like they're with family, they're with their people, and I can definitely resonate with that. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that they've sort of found their place or found a place for them with our community and with us. So if you're interested in being in part of that, pick up the game, come give it a shot. I know it's intimidating to, be the new person in an established community, especially if you feel like maybe you're not very good, you're not going to do very well in a tournament or whatever. Just do it, and you might lose and go 0-2 and in a tournament or whatever, but it'll be worth it. And this community is amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. So by all means, come join us.
Oh man, that's beautiful. All right, and from Cashbird and friends at Puzzle Wednesday, that's it for this episode of Margin Time. Please join us next time when we interview your aunt that got you in the panel attack. Take care.